one of the things that struck me walking around the show floor yesterday, was that there was a feeling of paradise lost to a certain extent, and that there is a fear in the air. And people have been talking about the apocalypse, the end of the apps, and the great judgment day, and of the Indiecalypse. And so we got a panel together to chat about this. We got Ian from Witching Hour Studios. They have abandoned free-to-play and fled for premium indie on the PC and console. We got Jonathan from 12 Braves, who just recently announced that they are going all in and partnered up with one of the biggest publishers out of China for a free-to-play game. We got Elicia, that is running GameStart, which is the largest B2C conference in Singapore, so business to consumer, basically looking at ways of selling. And we got Ivan from LambdaMu Games, who made one of the biggest free-to-play games out of Singapore. My brain doesn't quite work anymore. 11 years ago, or 20 years of game development will do that to you, I'm sorry. So, the first thing I would like to ask is, where is the games industry going? Ivan, do you want to take that one?
Okay, so I guess I can only say things specific to my particular experience with the industry. Just some background. Basically, the company that... Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So the company, our company focuses on free-to-play mobile games. We started 6 years ago. And I can say that in the 6 years, a lot have changed. We first started when Angry Birds at 99 cents was still a thing. And then we saw the shift to free-to-play, and then we saw the shift to ads being dominated, ads coming in and third-party software filling up, a lot of middleware coming in. And now, I guess, where is this particular segment of where mobile games are headed to? I think right now I feel that we're headed into a period of consolidation. We're also headed to a period where we're starting to see a huge amount of maturity in the market. We're also starting to see the beginnings, I believe, of people realizing that the App Store and Google Play might not be the only appropriate place to distribute your games. And you can see, I believe that we'll start to see the beginnings of that, which will allow other channels to flourish in the future for mobile games. Yep.
Ian, do you have an alternative on that one?
Not so much an alternative, but a continuation. I think where we're going is that we're turning to a feudal system. There's always going to be the few lords at the top and us plebs at the bottom. It will always be, I think it's consolidated is the right way to put it, because you can clearly see where you fit, and understanding that and just accepting that what you are versus what you are not will definitely help with your survival.
Well, I mean, every so often we rise up with pitchforks and torches.
Yeah, well, usually there is. I mean, we have like a Christ-like figure that will come up and do that, and we all go like, yeah, and then nothing happens.
Then he turns out to another feudal lord.
What Christ-like figure? Like Crossy Road or?
Yeah. Someone comes in and goes like, like, I did it differently and it worked for me, and
Flappy
everyone
Bird,
goes like, yeah, we can all do this too, and then no, you can't, yeah, because you're all not special snowflakes.
No political advertisement for Hillary here, please.
Oh my God. Actually, I'd like to add something to that as well. Like, gone are the days where you can just, sit in a basement, get a couple of friends to make a game that you really love, and hopefully it'll make a hit, and that is it. Like, it's like, especially for Valiant Force, initially we did budget as well for the whole seed funding and everything to self-published, but as you study the market more and more, you realize that you can't really do that anymore. It's really hard for indies to just go out and put in all together the production costs of your team, development costs, and as well as your launch costs and acquisition, branding, and marketing, and everything together for indie. Like no investor would say, all right, I'm just going to give you $5 million to do everything for your 3-year plan.
Is that roughly how much you think?
That's actually, that's my experience so far. So, there are exceptions to the case as well. So,
but 5 million is a nice round ballpark figure for launching a top-tier AAA free-to-play game.
It also depends on your launch plan in stages, in regions, and how are you planning to launch your game, and it also depends on which market you go, whether you're console, mobile,
Yeah,
whatever. platform.
specifically talking mobile free-to-play, which is your area of expertise. 5 million.
I actually think it might not be
A
enough.
bit lesser than that would be okay, but it also depends on your genre, like how accepted your genre is, like the penetration. So you have to really check the markets. Like, is your game an SLG, a card battle game, or casual free to play? What's your conversion rate? How easy is it to acquire users? If you're launching Southeast Asia, is it manga? Is it acceptable? Is it just limited to Western style? So it also depends on a lot of these factors, and you cannot just give like one answer for the right answer kind of thing. Yeah.
Ivan, you had a...
Yeah, actually, so because I think we're in the same industry, I definitely agree with you that for the mobile de facto standard as we know it, it's gotten to a point where 5 million startup capital for a new company might not seem enough. That's like if I were to start a mobile company right now, I'm not even sure I can do it at that amount. But I do think that at the end of the day, we're talking about devices that over 1 billion people in the world have. And the problem right now lies in the fact that the way we're distributing apps and software to them is so funneled to Google and Android, to Apple and through Apple and Google. I do believe there's enough space. Like, we're not talking about a $500 million revenue per year project. We're talking about very low numbers, like 5 million, 2 million, 10 million. There is an opportunity, but it's still very young, underdeveloped for companies to hit budgets to develop games at that size. Unfortunately, right now, it's still hard because there's no direct way to market and distribute games at this level. Yeah.
Can I ask a question for the audience? So everyone who's a game developer, whose actual job involves making games, hands up. Cool. Of those of you who know your own budgets, how many of you are budgeting less than $100,000 on development and launch? Hands up. How many are budgeting less than $500,000? How many are budgeting less than $1 million? North of $1 million. Yes, Mario, we know. I think there is a disconnect between what we hope will actually be enough, and once you've actually seen the dragon, how much actually is enough. Ian, you decided to break and run. Is the grass greener over on Steam?
No, not at all. In fact, it's just as convoluted because they've switched to a system where anything and everything can go on. I'm tired of seeing anime-made games, and it's because it's green light. Anyone can do it. I remember somebody at the last thing came to me and go like, do you need your game green light? Like just $6,000, I can make anything happen. I go like, I'll go away. So I mean, the quality, it's dropping generally speaking. But the reason why I left apps was not so much because the grass was greener, but rather I got to know myself and I got to know what my team is good at, and I'm banking on that. Versus what the environment is about, I kind of I introspected and decided that this was a far better option for us.
Are you happier?
Yeah, I sleep better, except for Kickstarter, but yeah, I generally sleep better.
Chris doesn't.
Yeah.
You brought in an interesting concept here, right? This ecosystem that even now exists on Steam, right? You're talking about people who are like, yeah, I can get you greenlit for $6,000, right? We've seen this massive ecosystem bloom on iOS and Android. In fact, if you throw a rock outside, you will be hard pressed to not hit an ad company. And if you do the world a service, possibly. But is the same thing coming to iOS and to Steam and to PC? Are we seeing this massive ad?
Okay, let's be honest. Like any industry, every fraction of an industry will have parasites. We can't deal. I mean, we have to just accept it and just go with it.
Okay.
Right. So they will exist. But the truth of the matter is that the audience is a lot less accepting of if they smell anything like that. And there are YouTube channels and personalities that will call games out if they see anything smacking of this.
Are there gamers who will call the YouTubers out?
Back and forth, it's a nice cycle. But basically, what happens is that it's a community that polices itself a lot better than on iOS and Google.
That's what's missing. There's no reinforcement. We can get away with anything on mobile right now.
Yeah,
And
pretty
monthly
much.
drops.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one, actually. We see the same thing when it comes to reviews, right? Where the press and the way the press engages with the audience on iOS and Android, they have no traction at all. So Elicia knows probably more about marketing than most of us, and specifically you run a B2C event. Where are we screwing up? Why can we not engage with our users as developers?
Okay, I think a little bit of background is where I come from is I run a marketing agency as well as GameStart. And I actually come from a very different environment, which is I used to work for EA, and I used to do marketing for EA. So you're looking at huge budget. So it's a very different environment, right? But a lot, obviously it works, right? But you throw a lot of money in it. I think, I'll be honest, I had to Google what Indiepocalypse was before this panel. And I think it's true. I mean, it's hard because one thing I realized with a lot of indies is you're so focused on making this game, right? This vision. And a lot of people forget that you could have the best product in the world, but if you don't push it, if you don't tell people about it, no one's going to know it exists. So to me, I think the mistake that a lot of developers make is they think the product is enough.
Build it and they will come.
Yes, which I'm sorry, it doesn't happen like that. I mean, that's why I started GameStart, because we have so much talent in not just Singapore, but Southeast Asia. And a lot of them were not getting any kind of attention, or at least it was very hard, right? You have to compete with all the guys on the App Store, all the guys on the Play Store, all the guys on Steam. How do you stand out? And I think that is the big question. How do you make people pay attention to you out of
450 games that launched on iOS yesterday.
Exactly.
I think a big part of it is actually having a face-to-face conversation with the people that you're actually selling your game to. We are at PAX, we are at TGS, we move around for consumer shows, less so for the B2B stuff, because we want to talk to the people that we're actually selling to. And I think that's a very big part, because they actually get the things that they need immediately. Hi, would you like to join our conversation, Richard?
So I agree. For premium games, it works really well, where you can engage in a customer and sign. If you go to PAX East, you sign 300 people interested. That translates very well into revenue.
Does the free-to-play audience give a shit?
That's the problem. You go to PAX East, you sign 1,000, place 1,000 free downloads. That's nothing for the mobile industry, and you're paying such a your user acquisition cost for events so high. So that's why budgets like yeah, Jonathan, it only makes sense for if you're going for that right free to play. You can show up at events at GameStart if you have a huge budget where a GameStart booth is a small enough percentage, but not for small companies.
Oh, you're talking $5 million. I mean, $5 million, the budget for GameStart or PAX East is not huge.
Yeah, it's not huge. So it's worth it for if you have $5 million per game. But if you're talking for free-to-play games where your budget is $1 million and below, it just doesn't make sense.
I think also the bigger problem from my point of view is in free-to-play, the consumer, the games are disposable, and we know that, and that's a problem. But the second problem is the consumers are also disposable. Like, with the exception of a couple of whales, the rest of them are worth $0.01. And so going there and courting them at PAX, I don't know how much value you actually get out of that. Jonathan, how do you get the user to care?
Sell them swag.
Cool. So actually I would like to just summarize a quick experience and story that I had with our game event first. So I'm from the production operations side, in our structure, and actually Chris Ng, his, biz dev, marketing, branding, and everything. And we are just these two pillars in a company, right? And as you know, these two will always argue about cost and where you spend your money, where you use your resources in your company to make banners, posters, T-shirts, keychains, right? I was like, hey, I got to hit my deadlines, man. I got to hit my milestones, and it's like, no, we need for this for marketing, we need this for SDGCC and Game Start. And initially I was like very the one side, like, let's just make a good game, social media, let's do it, traditional way. But it has proven otherwise for us in our experience. Like, we went on to Taipei Game Show, and that is where we actually, we had a booth there, and we talked to a lot of people, and that's where we actually we found our publisher, FunPlus. So just to add on to that is that we did a lot of things. Firstly, is to affirm our direction in our game. It's like, if you just make your game in your room and you think that, it's going to be the best game, the visuals are awesome, and you don't engage people, you don't engage the customers. You can't engage personally to like hundreds of thousands of players, right? But do your best, right? You know who are your otaku friends. You know who this product is for. Show it to them. Say, hey, would you buy this product? Would you care? Would you want to play? And get the genuine reaction from them. And I think Ian has that experience as well. And when we showed it to our friends, our colleagues, we know players who play this kind of card battle games and love these kind of games, and then we see their reactions. It affirms us, so that's number one. And secondly, then we can understand and go forth with confidence and really, okay, let's go this convention, let's go that convention, let's make this product, let's make this merchandise, let's push this because it's all worth it. They love it, they like it. And
So even your B2C are still basically B2B. It's about internal validation and finding external stakeholders.
Yeah, I think that's the correct. Yeah, external stakeholders is the main thing. You want people to be your champions for you, versus trying to talk to everybody. Fan art. Look at what they do. I mean, you guys sell so much swag. By the time I get there, there's nothing left, right? I mean, that tells you a lot about the buy-in, because don't forget, every time they buy something and they show it to their friends, that's advertising right there as well, and they paid you to advertise for you.
Yep. So just to add on to that, and that's actually the importance of the B2B and the B2C, generally events in the gaming space, because that is your opportunity when you have a whole bunch of people who normally wouldn't be in the same place, and it's the time for you to sell your game to them. And what really works, to be honest, in gaming is word of mouth. Like in EA, we spend so much money, right? But end of the day, what we really wanted was word of mouth, because nothing is more valuable than me telling my friend, like, hey, this game is awesome, you have to play it. Because it's not like, I saw an ad, let's try it, because I get 5 free gems somewhere else. But yeah, so that's really where your value and your quality players are going to come from.
Just to add one last point. It's just like something, okay, like for our marketing team as well, like sometimes I'm pretty anal about even the messages. Like, when we do an announcement, we don't just say, oh, hey, this is what's happening, the launch is being pushed. We really put our hearts into every message, and we acknowledge that we are talking to them from heart to heart. We express our deep felt regret to delays and things, and we want to make things right. And we really structure our messages on Facebook, everything to be really personal, rather than, you're a marketing manager, there's this template, just use this template, fill in the words, and let's change it. Let's just be corporate and professional. No, we go the very personal route.
I do think that the idea of indies being corporate and professional, I think that's the kiss of death.
Yeah, so yeah, it's definitely it's my opinion, and I think that's so far our experience.
I completely agree, man.
So we talk about, goddamn panel starting to feel consensus. I don't like that. We talk a lot about B2B and B2C conferences, right? And there is an ungodly number of them. How do you pick which ones to go to?
You should not answer this question.
GameStart is the best. Okay, so I mean, for us, it's just very clear. I think there is, for us, the typical conferences we attend to are two types. For B2B, we do attend B2B conferences. We're looking for casual mobile conferences, and there are quite a number of those around. And those are valuable because, we do meet with publishers, we do meet with business contacts, and we do meet with other professionals that can take a look at a game and give us crazy good feedback. So I think that shouldn't be underestimated. B2B is really, really good for high quality feedback on your game. But on the other hand, B2C, we treat it, we really do treat it like a validation point, exactly as you said. We don't expect, there's no milestone target, oh, sign up X number of people like that. All we do is go there, show the game off, and see how the crowd reacts to it.
But that's a, you do this and do that, right? But
Yep.
which
how to
ones do you
choose.
go to? And are there too many?
We do choose, so like Casual Connect is pretty, okay. There are enough conferences out there for you to select what your game is suitable for. Like, you should be very careful. You should research you should research what shows up at the conference. Like if you're doing a mobile game, I'm not sure E3 is the right place to be at. I'm not sure whether even PAX East might be the right place to be at. It might be, but I'm not sure. But yes, there is a lot of conferences out there, and it really, really pays for you to do your research to know who are attending and who they are targeting. If it aligns very well with the demographic you're trying to go for, by all means, please go. It's very, very important that you do show up at conferences.
So as an indie trying to get traction, assuming you're actually making a game that people give a shit about, because let's be honest, if you're making Crossy clone number 425, your chance of actually having a story out of that is very hard, right? You need something that actually people would care about. How do you get anyone to know about that? I mean, Ian, do you want to start with that one?
I think the most important thing that everyone needs to remember is that while your game might have a story, your company needs a story as well. It's about, and that's the journey that journalists need as well. Because at the end of the day, a journalist as an editor, he has to pitch this story to an editor and decide whether it's worth putting on their website or in the paper, because they want clicks, they want readership. So if you are not interesting enough, they're going to find it hard to, get it approved to be written about. So even if the guy is your friend, if you don't have a good angle or a good reason to why an article about you is being written, it's not going to happen. So it's very important to think about how you are telling the story. So let's say you want to do you want to talk about launch. Don't go like, we are launching our game, then you just send out an email. You go like, we are launching our game and it was made by a programmer with one arm. Just have something that they can latch onto, that they can use to forward to make the story interesting. Because if it is just then that's not enough. The one thing I always do is that when I interview interns or people I might want to hire, right, I ask them, what do you do outside of school? Now the reason why I ask for this is that if they are showing you work that they've done in school, that was the assignment that everyone else got. So likewise, when you are making a game, everyone else is also making a game, right? You're doing what was the assignment. But what extra things do you do? That's what the journalist wants to find out so that they can help you. More often than not, journalists are really awesome people, and they want to write about interesting things. Because at the end of the day, it is their name. The byline is their name. So you have to provide them something interesting.
You need a twist.
You need a twist, yeah. If not a twist, or at least the core of what it is, it must be interesting.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to like how do you outcompete people, right? When I started boxing, one of the coaches said the hard part about boxing is the other guy wants to win too. And I think all the other developers you see out there, they all want to win too. They're all fighting just as hard as you. So in the interest of the Indiecalypse, we've got 2.5 minutes left. In the interest of looking at that, looking at all the developers out there, how many are alive in 2 years?
2? It's an arbitrary number, right? It's an arbitrary number.
50.
50%.
no.
I mean, let's go Douglas Adams on it, 42.
42% or 42 full stop?
It's 42.
42 of them. No, go.
I don't know. All the best.
I'm inviting them to make themselves the most hated person on the
We're all
conference.
fighting the same fight. All the best.
As long as you win.
No. This is not a zero-sum game. Okay, please recognize the industry is not a zero-sum game. There are enough users in there for everyone, unless you want to be like a freaking Supercell or something like that. But there's enough for everyone. All right. Yeah.
I think that's a very valid point. The world is not a zero-sum game. How many of the middleware guys will survive, do you think?
More than we'd like.
Well,
I actually think they're going through a period of consolidation as well. this one. Yeah.
The word you're looking for is mass die-off, I think. ELE. What will differentiate the ones that survive?
The one with the most cash in bank.
Oh, we're talking about middlemen right now, but of the developers.
The one with the most. I actually don't know.
I think it's the ones that will make an effort to try and stand out. Like Ian says, right? If you're pitching the game to journalists, but not just them, you're pitching your game to players, the people who are going to pay you money to put it in your bank. You need to tell them what's so special, what's so great about your game. Why did you want to make this game in the first place, right? And really just think about it. Like, even when you position your game, like they were saying, I really agree with what they say, because your messaging is important. How you position yourself and your game is important. And that is really what's going to make the difference. When I go to a crowded hall and I'm looking at 20 games, right, on a table, what's going to stand out? That's
Can I add something?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna be the devil's advocate here.
Go.
All right, I'm gonna say that everything they say is not important. No, okay, I'm kidding. But okay, because the problem sometimes with advice to how to be successful, right? It's like, this is important, that is important, this is important, everything's important. But you are two guys. They're like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? I can only do so much. I think for me, at least, the most important thing is pre-production. It's basically your direction. When you sit down with your co-founder or your lead designer, set a vision and set it right, test it, and then go with it. The worst thing that can happen to any indie is like, let's go 12 months, let's make this, and then you realize like no one's interested. And then you're like, oh, let's dig out our core design, let's change it, let's make it Monster Strike from something else, and it will kill you, and it would devastate. It would just be, you'll be in a position where it's like, you can't really salvage anything. Yeah.
So yeah, 12 months silence is a very long production process.
I mean, it's just a
Example. Yeah. So no. Okay. I'm not saying you. Yeah. But I think that's correct. Whatever you do, show your game off as early as possible. Talk to as many people as possible. Don't be afraid to hide in a corner. I think that's really the most valuable thing. If you talk with a customer, you show him your game, he says it's shit, that's good feedback. That's really, really good feedback. You know that you're doing something right, you know you're doing something wrong, you can move forward. Yeah.
You're not a special snowflake. Seriously, you're not a special snowflake. Everyone's doing the same thing you're doing, so put everything you have into it, and please be nice to everybody. It's a small industry. We know it when you're
an incestuous industry.
Yeah, we know when you're assholes.
Okay, we are at 31 minutes, I believe. Do we still have time for Q&A and having fun, or?
We can do that now. Yeah.
Okay, or we can keep going. And these guys will keep talking. I might need to start feeding them beer at some point, but. Okay, Q&A.
Hi, thanks for the great talk. So mobile as a medium, right? Do you think it's sustainable? And I come from a point of view when the mobile gaming boom started, especially with the Angry Birds thing. Everyone, even my dad who never plays games, he was playing Angry Birds. It was such a big thing. And gradually you see it subside. Whereas from my own perspective, because I come from more of the hardcore development area, when I invest in a PS4, it's a gaming investment, right? But now when we invest on mobile, it's more of an app investment, social sharing investment. So do you think it's sustainable long term, especially with the free-to-play model, which kind of has spoiled the whole audience, kind of shot itself on the foot? And where do you see mobile as a gaming device going in the future?
Who wants this one? Jonathan?
So
Just quick, the question is mobile, the way it's going right now, sustainable? Or will it crash and burn under the weight of burnt free-to-play users?
I think you can look at you can make the case that mobile is a lot like candy, your Kit Kat, your Kit Kat bars, your Mars bars in.
I was going to say crack, but okay, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I believe it will always be around. This particular kind of industry is sustainable, but it is extremely mature. You like what we were talking earlier. You're no longer able to succeed with small budgets. what is key right now is for the industry to realize that the market is so huge that there's opportunity for different kinds of product to be able to survive as well. Unfortunately, the channels for different kinds of products to succeed are not available yet. Google and Android are trying their Android and Apple are trying their best to enable premium products, pushing premium products more to the forefront, but it's just not enough yet. I'm a little bit optimistic since there's there are a billion devices out there. I do hope that something other than the free-to-play industry would be sustainable as well. And as for free-to-play, yes, I believe it's sustainable.
Okay, understanding your question, like comparing Angry Birds and hardcore games, like is it sustainable? That's the challenge. I think like that's where games are going. Like in the past, you get one game, right, with no expansion, no DLC, no expansion or content. But nowadays, every game, almost every, I mean, a lot of the games are going towards having a DLC system, having patches, updating its content. And that's where I think a lot of the Japanese games and Korean games and Chinese games are going. Like you see a lot of card battle games, SLGs, simulation games, and a lot of them, they have content patches. And that's where the shelf time comes in, right? Like how long can your game stay relevant and keep the gameplay fresh, the game mechanics fresh, and keep players competitive, within the community, and also continue to engage your community. And that is something that a lot of successful top grossing games are doing, like Summoner's War, Brave Frontier previously. Yeah, so this is something that like indie developers, they should also look into. Like, I cannot just make a game that's one-off. Like, how do I expand my content? How do I update? Like, what is my major patch 1, major patch 2? Do I add in a new kind of gameplay that builds on top of the first core gameplay? Like,
But that's kind of hard if you're two guys.
sorry.
That's kind of difficult if you're two people, right?
It depends on your core mechanic, actually. If like your core mechanic is something like you drag a ball and you fling a ball into the air or something, and then now you do a different kind of motion, like cut the rope.
Yeah.
Like they have many different puzzle mechanics, so you add more puzzle mechanics to extend to the puzzles and stuff.
What I will say when it comes to sustainability, right? Partially, the name of the panel is a joke on the old Blue Oyster song. But it's also something I believe strongly, right? Don't fear the Indiecalypse, right? Because out of destruction will come more new opportunities, right? So back in the days, we worked on casual games. And at some point, casual games, like casual downloadable PC games, crashed and burned. And everyone went fleeing to Facebook games. We all know how that ended up. And then they all fled to iOS games. Now they're all flying somewhere else, right? Out of that destruction will come new opportunities, right? Huh? Make mobile gaming great again. So I wouldn't worry about mobile games. I think they will be fine in the same way that casual games are still a thing, in the same way that Facebook games are still a thing, even though the big guys have all left it, and even though there's no hype about it. Next question.
Yeah, so for the devs, right? Because can you share a part in the games that you've been working on? Like, because there's always critical decision points in the production process where you take certain decisions and then it plays out much later, right? So can you share one of the tough decisions that you had to make in the process? Because that tends to kill companies and make companies as well.
So the question is,
when they meet that
mention
that
a point in your development where you had to make a critical decision, and whether that went well or badly for you. Ivan, do you want to start that one?
Okay, so I guess I should give some background as well to what we are doing in the company right now. The last huge game we launched was 2.5 years ago. 2.5 years ago. And we've been developing our next game for 2.5 years. It's a long time for mobile game development, and it's painful. I mean, yeah. Okay, but I think one of the big decisions was we actually completed the game about 1.5 years ago. We had a version of the game that we were ready to put on the App Store. We took a look at it. Both Abhishek and I took a look at the game, and we felt that it would be drowned in this current market. That was a critical moment for us. it was a very painful decision to make. We decided to stop, to drop it, and to relook at what we needed to build, how we needed to approach the project from a different angle. I would say, I mean, if I were to go back to and face with the same decision right now, that was about a year ago, making the decision, I would still have made the same decision. Because if we had launched, there would not be significant revenue. The brand, the company name would have been a little bit tarnished. We would have squandered our media contacts as well, because they want to the media wants to show off a good game. They want to talk about a good game, and we cannot allow a subpar game out of the gates. It's a really tough decision, and we're just hoping that I'm still hoping that's the right one. Yeah, right.
Anyone else want to take this one?
I will also share a little about how we make some of these critical decisions from a design perspective in game development. One thing that I like to do, one thing that we do differently in 12 Braves is that when a decision cannot be made between two people, we open it up to the floor. And we always open up to the floor as well to give the ownership of the product back to the team. And we recognize that the team are the audience as well. Like they play this game. They must love the company game. I mean, not say must, but it's better that they love the game, right? As they're making it. And it's also to not just have like an Indian chief making all the decisions and thinking that his vision is the best vision in the world, and his decisions is definitely the right decision. So it's always opening up to the rest of the team to encourage ownership, and we always encourage feedback, to self-validate and everyone to have this sort of to put their blessing on the decision. And when it comes to example of a decision was Valiant Force itself. It's the simple decision of in our combat system, should we have just the 3D models in the combat and just drag the models, and we are using an isometric view, and we had to make a decision like, okay, do we just tap on the isometric view on the models, or do we just cut 35% of the space on the bottom to make a grid? And although the first choice, it would seem a lot more sense, like there's a lot of examples there, there's a proven concept. We wanted to make the whole experience a lot easier. So what we did was we put a 3x3 times 2 grid at the bottom where you can actually just drag the icons. And then you can hold it in a portrait mode. Because the buttons are located at the bottom of the screen, you can actually move it a lot easier. Majority, not say majority, but a little bit more than majority of of our team members were like, oh, but it doesn't look as nice as just having the whole 3D. But we had to make a decision because of usability. And over the long run, actually, every member sort of converted and like, oh yeah, this is definitely the right decision. It's so much easier. And then when we see players play our game, during conventions, it's definitely a right move. So
you guys also made a internally quite controversial move in terms of both 2D and 3D art.
Yes.
Which added a couple of weeks extra work to your project.
Yes. But it's to answer that question, it's to actually give a lot of value back to the player. Like
so basically every character in their game is modeled and then hand painted as well, which is a significant investment.
Yeah, but we try to shorten our pipelines and be really smart with our pipelines. Like how do we produce this in a short amount of time? How can we skip a lot of tedious, long brainstorming on certain pieces and parts of the pipeline? But yeah, we are digressing.
Okay, next question.
The next answer, right?
You have one as well.
I have one as well.
Oh, God damn it.
Hi. Just for the record, I work completely differently from 12 Braves. I work the other way around. I believe in a dictatorship. So how it works actually is that
Ian, it's not a dictatorship. It's a Pratchian democracy.
Sure.
One man, one vote. Ian is the man. He has the vote.
So basically, what I do it the other way around. If there's an important decision to be made, I let everyone have a say first, and then I will pick something and justify to my team why I think that's the best idea, and we move on that. So that means I have a bigger pool of options first before I make a choice, versus coming out with something and get challenged for it. So that way, they already know what was on the table, what the other options were before I decide on something. You want to know what a difficult decision was? You all know that making a game requires a certain budget. And we had a choice. Do we want to make an RPG with all the accoutrements of what you expect from an RPG? You know, branching storyline, lots of inventory and items and things like that. Or do I voice my whole game? So we went with voicing the whole game, and I mean, I got a feeling there will be some blowback of people going like, why is it not like an RPG I expected? But we, you know, with the cast that we have, I do think that we will be forgiven for that choice in the long run. Yeah, my take on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Next guy.
Now, working in Singapore as indie companies, what are the most challenging hiring decisions that you face in terms of the talent pool? Because I've been in a hiring position, it can be quite challenging in terms of, in terms of the attitude of people coming into exposure to games and these different elements. So what are some of the challenges you have faced, you know, each one of you hiring for your company, especially locally?
So the question is, what are the specific challenges of hiring locally in Singapore? Which gets kind of nichey, but yeah, sure. Who wants to take that one first?
Okay, I can. Okay, so I think one of the biggest things is that if you guys are looking to hire people, I felt that after doing this so long, I still feel that we need to improve it much better. I actually think that for a small company, you must place a huge amount of importance in every person you hire. If it takes weeks to confirm a candidate, it takes multiple interviews, sit down and make you introduce them to the team, so be it. Because that one additional person working well with your team is hugely important. Again, we are talking about small numbers over here, where this it could be your third person, it could be potentially your partner in the company, and so on and so forth. The more emphasis, the more time you spend with the person to confirm whether you guys are a good fit, the better. Specifically, one of the hardest things that I find in hiring in Singapore is there is a mismanagement of there tends to be a difference in expectation on what the job can offer. If you come to an indie company, right, this is not a limitless pool. This is not a limitless pool of money thing. We have a limited budget. Everything is limited. We scrounge everything. Everything is on a shoestring budget. There's no confirmation that you will get a promotion. You won't get a pay bump. It really lives and dies on how well your project does. And
so when I was speaking to a bunch of students, I said to them, you know, one of the big problems in Singapore is everyone wants to be a chief, nobody wants to be an Indian. And then all the Indian students started to giggle at me.
Yeah, I find that true as well. I find it true as well. It's very difficult to find like someone that would be willing to work as part of the team and not expecting to go and not wanting to go to a higher level or something like that. Yeah, yeah.
My favorite story, programmer comes in for an interview. Interview goes pretty okay, and then he ends it with, by the way, after a year, I don't think I'll be programming anymore.
I've heard 6 months. I've heard 6 months.
Yeah, you know, so
I want to move into management.
Yeah,
right?
then I'm like, what the hell are you gonna do? I'm gonna manage. Manage who? My team is so small, you can manage yourself for all I care, but yeah, that idea that kind of growth exists in a small company.
I think there's just a fundamental lack of understanding that, you know, if you're looking for a job, you know, the people that are managing are the people that are looking at not just the work, we're looking at money, we're looking at everything, we're making sure everyone's okay. It is a freaking tough and scary position to be in. I have no idea why you guys want to do this.
Because they think they get rich that way, silly bastards.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We have time for one last statement from the moderator. Maybe maybe a conclusive answer to the question.
Is the Indiecalypse coming?
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's going to be a burn down. I do think there is going to be they talk so sweetly about consolidation, which is another way to say a whole bunch of people are going to die, and the bigger ones are going to eat them all and grow big. And I do think we're going to see a consolidation. I think there is an overproduction right now. But I also think that out of that death will come new opportunities. I think a lot of the big companies that are leading the market right now will not be here in 10 years' time, and some amazing company that might be out there right now pitching their game is the new Zynga. You know, new Supercell maybe, or the new Zynga Cell of 2005, right? At some point, Zynga was hot and amazing, right? Always evil, but hot and amazing.
Apple is going to move into cars anyway.
Apple's moving into, yeah, that should tell us something, right? Yeah, even Apple's abandoning games. God, we're doomed. Anyway, I think the smart ones will work. Keep thinking about how do you market yourself. Don't just make it and hope, right? You are, as indie developers, you have to market yourself. You constantly have to reach out there. You have to have a story, you have to have a pitch, and your game needs to actually be unique and worthwhile. Don't just clone something that's hot today and hope that in 12 months you can release it and someone will actually care, because they won't. Right? Make the game you want to make a game with a story, pitch that to audience that actually care, unless you have at least $5 million to buy an audience. Thank you very much. Thank you, my panel. Come on.